Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabashai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabashai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off with this video from Patrick Humphrey's YouTube channel titled, It Begins, New Treaty Just Passed, Lawmakers Issue Serious Warning. And as we're about to see in this video, this devil, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, more specifically the elites like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, are getting ready to make big moves out here to get, these different countries and people on board with their NW0, their great RESET, the fourth industrial revolution. And as we'll see in this clip, the UN was discussing this pact for the future, which, deals with different, issues out here that, would allow the UN and these different agencies say over these different countries as governments on how they react to these different situations. So, hey, that's very serious. Say, another major pestilence happens, which would bring about another L-down, an economic collapse, a cyber attack, which is what they're going to go into with this clip, takes place, with this pact for the future. Again, it would give the UN, say over how these different countries would handle it. So in essence, the elites could manipulate a situation to take place, and these countries that are underneath these pacts would have to follow what the UN, really the elites, would want to do in order to handle that situation. But I'm gonna play about the first 6 minutes or so of this clip, and this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
This is big breaking emergency news. The United Nations just passed their quote pact for the future, and lawmakers are warning that this could be a major problem for the United States and its sovereignty. They are warning that the U.S. is handing over their rights and their powers to the United Nations and the World Health Organization from this pact and this treaty that just passed Sunday, September 22nd. So let's get into all the details here. Really quick, guys, please just hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm posting multiple videos a day, keeping you guys updated on all this big urgent news, and it just helps to get these warnings out. I appreciate that. So this pact was just passed at the UN Assembly that is being held September 22nd and September 23rd. They just passed this quote pact for the future, and these congressmen are warning that this could allow the UN and the World Health Organization, these treaties that we are entering into, could allow them to take over certain types of emergencies inside the US and have governing authority over them. So I want you to listen to what these reps said. This is Rep Bob Good from Virginia and also Ralph Norman from South Carolina. And they're warning that this treaty that is being pushed by the UN and the World Health Organization is going to strip the U.S. of its sovereignty. Listen to this right here from this press conference.
They don't want us to be subordinate to or governed by our Constitution. No, they want America to be subordinate to and governed by the UN, the World Health Assembly, and the WHO. And in fact, they intend to join with others at the UN summit this week to vote to award additional powers to the UN Secretary General. They seek to facilitate the evolution of the UN from an international cooperative body to an international governing body. These powers would be triggered by any one of a number of so-called global emergencies whether it was a so-called climate emergency, a health emergency, a cyber emergency, or a gun violence emergency, whatever that's supposed to be.
And remember what he just said, a gun violence emergency, which, we can come back to that later.
A financial emergency, or whatever they deem appropriate. And the Biden-Harris administration is in full agreement with the UN and the WHO on efforts to place us under their authority and to require such things as their international health regulations, including the surveillance of U.S. citizens, the censoring of dissenting views, and much more. The American people didn't vote for this, and they don't support this. And it's up to the people's representatives, that's us gathered here today, to have a responsibility to expose this and to reject this. The U.S. should defund the WHO again. We should withdraw from the WHO. Any agreements with the WHO or the UN should require Senate approval or disapproval. And a bipartisan House majority voted to require Senate approval just last week with Tom Tiffany's bill on the House floor. So I'm proud to be joined here by my House colleagues and others who are appropriately concerned and educated, informed, and leading on this issue. Again, this is the most important issue that's getting the least amount of attention relative to its importance and its impact on our country and on the American people. And with that, I yield to the gentleman from South Carolina, Ralph Norman.
Thank you, Congressman Good. I want to thank Frank Gaffney, Tony Perkins, all my colleagues for taking a lead role in this. As Congressman Good said, this is probably, other than our financial crisis this country's in, the most important issue to call attention to. The Summit of the Future will happen on September 22nd, 23rd. And folks, what that will do is cede America's authority, America's sovereignty to basically China. China is defined as a developing country. It is the number 2 economy behind America. It's not developing. It will cede our decision-making ability to China. That's what you need to know.
And it's not just China. It's these, organizations like the UN, the WHO, the WEF, which are, just the fronts for the elites to push forward their agendas. They're really the ones that are wanting to get control over the, the decision making of these different governments, which, for all intents and purposes, they already have it. Your politicians are bought and paid for. Hence why, regardless of who becomes president or whatever talking points you hear, what do you notice? Year after year, everything moves in the direction that the elites wanted to move in, of their NW0, that great RESET. Hence why you're hearing about talks of CBDCs and, a cashless society, biometric IDs, wars, etc., etc.
Let me read out what the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, his policy brief 2, issued on March of 2023. I propose that the General Assembly provide the Secretary General and the United Nations system with a standing authority to convene and operationalize automatically an emergency platform in the event of a future complex global shock of sufficient scale. Guess who determines that? The World Health Organization. It reveals in their definition a possible global shock, including large-scale climate or environmental events, determined by who? The Secretary General. Future pandemics. We all endured what the problem we had with the latest virus. High-impact events, involving a biological agent, determined by who? The World Health Organization. Disruption of global flows of goods, determined by who? Not America, but the WHO under the...
And what are you hearing about now? A strike with dock workers on the East Coast, which I believe, you can correct me on this, is supposed to go into effect by October 1st if they don't come to a agreement to stop it. And they were given some, warnings saying that if there was to be a strike where goods didn't flow for 2 weeks, hey, that would push back things getting back to normal to January. So we'll have to see what happens with that strike. But regardless, just like there were supply chain disruptions during 2019, to 2021, with the sea ragamuffin, hey, there are going to be supply chain disruptions again.
Secretary General. Not only that, it requires a 5% payment by the United States every year of our total medical dollars spent, which are in the trillions. Bottom line, we cannot let this go. This is a top line issue that America must be made aware of. It's got to go through the Senate where it requires 60 votes. And we're going to fight to make sure all Americans know what's happening and stop it dead in its tracks. The WHO needs to be defunded, needs to be we need to do away with it, and America get out of it.
All right, so
Which is all not going to happen, because none of that is a part of biblical prophecy. America, there will be, instability in this country like in other countries. And this devil is going to come down in great wrath to what? Fulfill his NW0 to an extent. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For the devil, Esau Edom, specifically the elites, is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that UN Pact for the Future is just another stepping stone in that devil coming down in great wrath. Because as those U.S. politicians were going into, they were saying that with this pact, it would allow the UN, the WHO, and the WEF, a say-so in what happens with different emergencies out here over what the governments would have to say in it. Pretty much putting them on board with whatever agenda that the powers that be want to push. And this brings me to my next clip. And Abaratazah, I'm making sense with saying this, and this is a little bit of spiritual speculation on my part, but remember what one of those politicians mentioned: a gun-related incident could trigger these measures. And the other politician said a mass, what do you say? Something like a mass, a kinetic event. And he mentioned, like a biological event, pretty much something that would lead to a lot of casualties to initiate those emergencies. But as we'll see in this clip from Canadian Prepper's YouTube channel, it says Congress preps for SHTF. And what the Canadian Prepper is going to go into is that in Congress, they're talking about passing new measures to deal with a continuity of government in case a lot of senators and congressmen, are deleted in some event. Now, wouldn't that sound like an emergency that would enact, that UN Pact for the Future, to where, look, it's such a major issue related to what? A theist attack, civil unrest, a biological attack, or whatever, that it's made the U.S. government, it's a liability for them to be able to operate correctly. So we can allow the UN and these different agencies to, cede control until they get things back in order. Hey, this devil is very crafty out here. Nothing happens by coincidence or happenstance. Everything is another tentacle leading back to that octopus, so to speak. And when you've got that spiritual eye salve, you're able to observe these things and, cut to the point of it. Because we know that, this devil, as I said, is coming down in great wrath. So everything we're seeing right now is leading towards this devil coming down in great wrath to enact his, his new order that he wants to bring about. But this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan, and in the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, these Edomites, should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Again, with that spiritual eye salve, we're constantly analyzing everything and see how it relates back to prophecy and how it relates back to what these elites' agendas are. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes, and I'm going to start it at the 16-minute and 30-second mark. And again, the title of the video is Alert. Russians told to prep for a nuclear event. U.S. troops enter Israel. Congress preps for SHTF.
This is weird. Very, very strange, considering we've heard the Secret Service guy who works for Trump talk all about how, they're preparing for if there's a geopolitical event and somebody gets taken out. And then you got the satellite phone issues that were given by the satellite phones that were given to the senators. That's almost 2 years ago now. It's incredible how time flies. But all of these things are starting to stack, and they all point towards they're expecting something big to go down soon. A bipartisan group of 4 House members is advocating for a constitutional amendment allowing for the quick replacement of Congress members in the event of a mass casualty event. That's going to raise some eyebrows, considering, we're possibly on the brink of I don't want to say a civil war, but civil unrest, right? So if there is some,
which we know that's going to happen according to biblical prophecy,
kind of crazy radical who tries to take out a bunch of Congress members at once, is that what they're trying to prepare for here?
And wouldn't that sound like a gun-related incident, like that one politician was talking about in the previous video, or a mass disruptive event?
They put forth a proposal to ensure that Congress can continue its work if a large number of members are killed in a mass attack. The proposal aims to ensure continuous representation and prevent violence from shifting political power. We've seen a 300% increase in threats against members over the last 7 years, noted Republican Derek Kilmer. The amendment will require House members to provide a list of potential replacements to their state's governor. Filling vacancies quickly would help maintain stability and deter political violence. However, passing such an amendment is challenging due to the need for 2/3 congressional vote and state ratification. Well, honestly, I don't know why you wouldn't agree to something like that, especially in times like these. Why wouldn't you? This is just another contingency continuity of government plan. This is prudent planning. Makes sense to me, unless for some reason you don't want people to be replaced and you want to handpick them by an authoritarian dictator, which would be perfectly in line with what we're seeing in Ukraine and, let's face it, Israel as well.
Hey, very poignant what he said. Unless you want them to, you want the new representatives to be handpicked by a dictator or a higher authority. Think that UN Pact for the Future, ceding, all decision making of a country's government to the UN, the WEF, or the WHO, who's of course going to pick the authorities they want over that situation.
Richard Primus, a constitutional law professor at the University of Michigan, suggested lawmakers should also consider changing the Presidential Succession Act, which includes the Speaker of the House and the President pro tempore of the state Senate in the line of succession. So they're preparing for alterations to continuity of government. I don't know how far it's going to make it. I guess we'll see.
And what do we just have, the other week? The second, and I'll put it in quotes, deletion attempt against, DJ Donald Trump. And in another video I was watching, I think it was by the Prepared Homestead, he was saying that the FBI currently has, knowledge of 5 potential deletion, deletion plans against Trump. And they're even talking about the Iranians trying to plan something to take out Trump, which, that's all political theater to get you people, to divert your attention from what's really going on. But if an event like that were to take place, that would cause, major situations in the U.S., and not just Trump, but either, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, or as Canadian Prepper was going into, a mass event that would take out, a lot of members in the U.S. government, which, like I've been going through without this video, would be a very good excuse to, bring about that UN Pact for the Future to cede, authority and decision making to those different agencies. But that's it with this clip. Now I'm going to go to my last bit of information on nypost.com titled "Shots Fired into Kamala Harris's Arizona campaign office, cops investigating, raises concerns. Was it an actual event by somebody, or was it another example of political theater? Shots were fired at Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign office in Arizona, police said, just over a week after a second deletion attempt against former President Donald Trump. Damage from several bullets fired sometime after midnight Monday was discovered at the Democratic National Committee campaign office near Southern Avenue and Priest Drive in Tempe. The Tempe Police Department told the Post. No one was inside the office during the overnight hours. Hey, how convenient. But this raises concerns about the safety of those who work in that building as well as those nearby, said Public Information Officer Sergeant Ryan Cook. So, hey, possible attempts on Legs Up Harris, attempts on DJ Donald Trump, and Congress talking about passing, new laws for continuity of government in case a lot of, congressmen and senators are taken out in some mass event, on top of the UN talking about a treaty that would cede a government's authority over to the UN in case there was a major emergency, like what? Gun-related emergency or anything like that. Hey, again, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. When we see these things come out, we look through it through a spiritual eye and filter it through biblical prophecy. And we know that that devil is going to come down in great wrath. So something very significant is going to take place to create a lot of chaos out here in order for that devil to bring about that order ab KO, which is getting everybody on board with that NW0. But now I'm going to close it out in 2nd Esdras chapter 15. I'm going to read verses 14 to 18. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. And remember what it said back in Revelation 12, verse 12, woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and them that dwell therein, because great judgment is coming from Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai on you people, and he's going to use these Edomites, the wicked, who's his sword, as pursuant to Psalm 17, verse 13, to help in bringing it about. Verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. And that one people standing up and fighting against another goes into many things. One race fighting against another, nation against nation, as it says in Matthew 24, civil unrest with one political group fighting against another, class warfare, political violence with patriot groups or domestic teas going against those in the government. And you've got this migrant situation taking place. You're going to have these migrants, committing acts of violence as well when things collapse out here, and swords in their hands. And what's that modern day sword in America? The gun. For there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. And whatever the truth is behind those Trump deletion attempts, or what we just read about with that shooting at that Democratic office, hey, that's seditious activity. And then on top of that, you got a lot of people invested in this election, and a lot of people saying that, look, we're not going to accept the results if our candidate doesn't win, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are, these people in the government, the mayors, the governors, the senators, the president, as well as the authorities like the police or the military that uphold the system. And what a Canadian prepper just say, that he suspects that there will be civil unrest in the U.S., which we're reading about it according to prophecy, and that there's been an uptick like a 300% rise in threats against those in the government. And then again, you've got these different politicians looking to pass bills for continuity of government in case a lot of those senators and congressmen are taken out. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And then also, the UN talking about passing, laws that would cede them authority over those in the government is another example of, the kings and princes or these different government bodies not being regarded. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And what does that sound like? A state of martial law, which could be triggered from what? A mass casualty event, a biological event, bringing about different medical L-downs, or what? Civil unrest. Which, again, sounds, in line with that UN Pact for the Future, with them making decisions on what they want to do to handle different emergencies. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Chaos out here on the streets of America and a lot of these different places all across, the planet. And why? For because of the pride of these people out here. When you read in 2 Esdras chapter 8, verse 50, it says, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter days, which we're currently living in, shall happen because they have walked in great pride. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is about to judge you people for the great pride and wickedness you've been walking in. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.